Welcome to Building Fortunes Radio. Make sure you check us out at buildingfortunesradio.com. Along with our marketing partners, we're here to help our PM Marketing Network Lead customers build their businesses and make the world a better place. At Building Fortunes, we know how much your business means to you and the people important to you. So spread the word, tell a friend, join our newsletter, and go make a difference in your world. Now on to our show with your host, Peter Mingils.
Hello, everyone. Peter Mingils here. You're listening to us live on Building Fortunes Radio. It's www.buildingfortunesradio.com. It's Tuesday. It's noon Eastern time for those people that are keeping score if you're listening in live. And remember, you can always listen to these recordings as well. I'll give you Jenny's link in just a second. But if you are listening to this radio show, you're going to hear from probably one of the most dynamic gals you'll ever meet. And Ginni Barnhart. Ginni is spelled with Ginni. So Ginni Barnhart is a gal who's married, and if you listen to her very first radio show that we did, you'll learn a little bit more about her background, but she's also involved in the real estate industry. And I find her approach towards this fascinating because there's traditional real estate, and then there's the stuff that she does, which is very much a business, but a little bit off the traditional path, and there's benefits, I guess, or pluses and minuses, just about everything. But I was so fascinated with this, we wanted to dedicate this radio show towards what she does, her background, and then, of course, the dynamics of this. So she has a radio show with us. We're calling it Pocket Change Fortunes Radio. So Pocket Change, if you go to buildingfortunesradio.com/pocket change or Pocket Change Fortunes, you'll be able to hear this and the previous radio shows that we've done. And if you or someone you know is that entrepreneur who's looking to become a better entrepreneur, or somebody who is not an entrepreneur but would like to work with someone who is, and has that capacity and really wants to say, I just need someone to show me. You want to work with Ginni and her husband and the team that she's amassed over in her section of Ohio as well as nationwide as well. So I want to get out of my introduction way and just say, Ginni is one of those unbelievable gals that gets a whole bunch of stuff done, and it's a fascinating thing, and she focuses a lot on what goes on with real estate. So if that's your fancy as well, then you want to definitely get plugged in what Ginni is doing. So again, Ginni, thanks for being here.
Oh, it's great to be here.
And we were talking a little bit earlier about like where you were going to do this radio show specifically today. So you could either be in the car at your home or in your conference office, and then they're doing some construction or some renovations in your conference room.
Yep.
So you picked another room to be in, which is kind of like the flexibility you need if you're going to do something with any kind of either a home-based business or your own business when you're running it yourself. You always have to be flexible and not rattled. So let's talk a little bit about your background first, and then we'll get into the main topic of today. So tell people a little bit about Ginni, please.
Okay, yeah, I am. I was born into that entrepreneurial, maybe pushed into it. My mom started her company when I was younger, and I made sure I understood that part of being in the family is working the family business, regardless of how I feel about it. You won't believe how many times I tried to get out of it, but wasn't able to. So I guess I was just surrounded by, that business ownership mentality. It made it really hard for me to.
Right. And for all those people that are Italian, she's not talking about that family business. She's talking about what kind of family business?
My mom is in the food industry, so it's all about food, which is probably its own thing. But it's the food industry. She started off with a restaurant and migrated into retail. So that was the business. But the thing is because I grew up in that, I had a hard time sticking to a job, because that was always the thing. As you graduate, you get a job, you work for 40 years, retire, and so on. So I had a hard time sticking, and then I finally got into the real estate industry through mortgages, and that was the one that was able to keep me glued into that industry since. So a couple decades later, here I am working in the real estate and the mortgage industries.
Excellent. Now, those industries, when we were all younger, were a little bit different. There was more of a traditional aspect to it, but now because of technology, the internet, and the competition, it's a little bit different. So, could you share with us some of the pros and minuses? When I talk to anybody, including myself, I usually say, there's nothing really that's black and white when it comes to these types of conversations. There's always, there's a plus over here and there's a minus over here, and you kind of have to weigh out the differences, and you got to deal with all of them, and stay off that emotional roller coaster, because sometimes it's going to be crazy if you let yourself have the highs too highs and the lows too lows. But talk to us a little bit about what it's like to be a traditional real estate either broker or sales agent, or versus the ones that you're doing right now.
Yeah. Well, real estate is kind of that industry that everyone is always intrigued about. You'll notice that there's so many programs on how to become an investor, how to become an agent, how to make your money in real estate. And it's such I think it's over glorified, if you will, because people see their side of it. A lot of your real estate agents start off as people that buy homes, and they say, oh my gosh, my real estate agent hardly did anything, and they just got a check for, a couple of $1,000s. I mean, I could do that. So they start on their path on learning how to be a real estate agent when they realize, oh my gosh, there's a lot of work that goes into earning that money. It just seems like a lot because it's lump sum, but when you when you think about clients that take, a month, 2 months, sometimes, we've had clients that took 2 years to buy their home. So if you want to, if you calculate it by time spent, you're not seeing that much of a return. It's such a big check at a time. So the thing is about the traditional is that when a real estate agent, they always have to be represented by a broker. And a lot of times these traditional brokers would split that commission. And a lot of times it was traditionally it was 50-50. Now you can go as low as 20% to your broker. But they're finding out that 50% used to go toward the brick and mortar that most brokers needed to house their real estate agents. But now with technology, agents are able to work from home. In fact, your highest producers are typically working at home, not using those homes that they're spending that 50% on. So other brokers are learning to pay they're taking the savings that they're not having to pay into these traditional buildings, and they're giving that money back to the agent. So the agents are able to make more of their commission with each transaction, which is really cool.
Right. So if I was that person who says, oh, geez, I think I want to try real estate because, there's a lot of homes being built and it looks like there's a wonderful opportunity, what is the path that most people have to go? Do you have to be a licensed person? Do you have to go back to school? Can you work on somebody else's license? How does that stuff work?
Right, yes. You definitely have to be licensed. Each state has their own set of requirements. I know the state of Ohio, you're required at least 40 hours, I believe, of education. So that, no, I'm sorry, not 40 hours. It's 3 weeks of 40 hours. So that's a lot more. Or you can go part-time. Now they have online schooling you can do. You have to take this test. The test is a huge deal because unless you pass it, you won't be able to get your license. One attorney told me one time in a CE course for law that real estate agents are basically they're kind of like minor attorneys because they're doing what attorneys do, and that's they execute contracts and they see it to the end. So that's the reason why it's such a big deal for them to go through that licensing process. And there's so many different compliance rules and things that agents need to know within their state because it's different from one state to another. But yeah, the first thing would be to get the education.
So is it fair enough to say that a real estate person has to kind of pass a real test? It's not like an online test that you can kind of fudge your way through. It's like
right.
It's a real test. You kind of know what you're doing.
In fact, you walk in, and I had to do the same thing as a mortgage loan officer. You're licensed with some brokers. You're licensed. So you go in, you have to put all your stuff in a locker. They literally will wand you to make sure you don't have anything metal before they let you in to your room. And they only give you like a couple, like a white erase type of board if you need to calculate anything, and then a calculator. That's all you get. And yeah, so it's a big deal. When you go take the test.
you can't look up the answers on the internet while you're taking the test?
No, not at all. In fact, I don't even think they have internet capabilities on these computers. I think
wow.
Yeah,
right. So I'm just poking fun, but the reality is that a real estate agent or broker is a higher level, but the real estate agent really did have to. They had to jump through some significant hoops. I mean, you can't be a dummy.
Right.
I mean, you could be dumb, but you can't be a dummy to be able to.
Right. We've actually had.
People test.
Yeah, we've. Right, and I don't mean to interrupt. I was going to let you know we had people that had 4.0 GPAs failed the test 3 or 4 times before they passed it. So
wow.
It's not an easy test.
Right, and it's not something you just, how it, almost like a business course you can kind of guess based on previous experiences. You really do have to know the answers. So, okay, so the first hoop is you got to become licensed. Is it expensive to become licensed? Is the test itself expensive, or the courses that you have to take somewhat expensive?
Well, it just depends. The schooling itself can run anywhere from $1,200 to $2,500 depending on your area, of course, and that's not real expensive when you consider some of the degrees that what degrees cost when you're going to to work in other industries. Sure. So that's not horrible. You have the test. I think that you typically will include the test in the first. Sometimes they have packages where you can get some of that stuff included. They have grammar courses that you can take right before you take your test. So it just really depends on how much you invest in passing that test. Because the reality is even if you're seasoned in real estate, if I was to go take the test without studying, I would never pass it, because you're typically studying and being tested on things that really isn't specific to what you do every day. It's those laws that that exist, but you never know what those numbers are, what the code is to that law. And that's what they're testing you on, is codes. And sometimes those answers are like one word apart from being correct. So you could just read the answer wrong and get it wrong. So.
Okay. So just like every other industry that has a test, there's a whole bunch of people that are willing to take your money to coach you on how to do a better test, and all those types of things as well to help you pass, which would make sense. Okay, so then you have your license, and then if you're going to decide what am I going to do with this, which shingle am I going to hang it on, that's when you would go to either a traditional real estate place or maybe something like yours. So let's talk about those. So let's talk first, I guess, the traditional one, and then we'll take our break, and then we'll talk about what you do.
Okay. Yeah,
so
the traditional is.
Yep, traditional ones. Go ahead.
Yep, I was going to say your traditional is your, your Remaxes, your Coldwell Banker. They've been around for a long time, and their business model is strong. They have a lot of training. They have a lot of, the office environment, things like that. But those all come at a cost. And
they're the brand, and their big thing is the brand, right? I think it would be pretty fair to say, what you're really buying is the brand. Century 21, you're buying the brand. So, you're buying the gold coat or whatever it might be. Everything is about the brand, and we'll get into that, I'm sure, as you start to talk about some expenses. So go ahead, keep going.
Right. So, so each of them have their own, they have it set up to be, like, especially if you get brand new, their split could be where you're getting 40% and they're getting 60%. And then as you increase in experience and you don't need as much hand holding, they can, bring up how much they're paying you. Also depends on your productivity. They're kind of your bigger traditional. They kind of look at you like an employee, even though you're self-employed. So there's a lot of things that they require of you, and that's to give them more of your money, right? So it's kind of like, okay, so not only am I going to give you more money, but you're going to make me work for you like an employee and do my business the way you want me to do it. So that's kind of how that traditional real estate model is. And it's not a bad one. It's just not for everybody, especially people that are self-starters.
Right. So with that branding, if you will, or the idea that you're working for this, that also incurs some cost. Like you'd have to buy this from here, and you'd have to buy this from there. What are some of the types of costs that are associated with being part of that traditional brand?
Well, anything marketing that has your name on it, your photo on it, you're typically going to buy in addition to what the traditional real estate brokers will provide you. So letterhead, envelopes, if they have them stacked, if they don't have it to where you can print them yourself, signage. Sometimes they have partnerships with other companies that will, or maybe they'll make a little override on your purchases, or they'll get discounted pricing for their agents. It just depends on how their model is set. Any software, any type of leads that you might want to receive from your company, that's going to come at a cost usually. So, all the way down to business cards, photos for your listings and things like that. There's just everything has a cost when you're working for any type of real estate company.
And I know that we do a real estate radio show with a gal named Sharon in Canada, or we did one. So she educated me on some stuff, and she sent me an email one time that was a video email from a network marketing company I was familiar with. It was a Talk Fusion. So Talk Fusion was the network marketing company, and they branded it towards Century 21. And I said, well, how much is that? And she said, oh, it's about $1,200 a year. So I'm like, wow, that's a big expense. I mean, that's not business cards. Talking about $1,200, and by the way, they don't pay it monthly; they pay it up front, and that gives them a discount. I'm like, whoa, that's a big thing. Now, I think I have my information accurate, but the reality was it was kind of expensive. So it's the dues, let's call it, for being in a traditional real estate and having that brand. They're somewhat costly. And how long does it take? I know this is an impossible question, but how long does it take for the average person to make their first sale? Like, how far out are most people, and I know it varies on the individual, but how far out are most people when it comes to, when you're making your first sale and being able to pay yourself back for some of the investments that you're making?
Right. Well, there are definitely differences in how someone is set up. If they have that natural sales ability, if they're in a community where they're well known before they even get into real estate, that plays a part. We have some that have been in our company for 3 years and haven't made their first sale. But then we have some people that have sales coming into it. They're just waiting for them to get licensed. So it really just depends on that person. It also depends on how coachable that person is, because I can take someone that's spanking brand new and I can get them started on the right path to getting their clients. But if they don't follow it, because sometimes they have their own ideas about how they can get their clients, and they find out they have to, they think that going back to the basics doesn't work, but it does. And so there's some education going on there too that can help delay some of that. And with real estate, there's yearly dues. You have your board dues, you have your state dues, you have your MLS. So there's a lot of constant things that you're having to buy that's outside of the company you work for. There's the state requirements. So yeah, so it's definitely it's the price to do business, right? There's always a cost of business, and real estate definitely has their set.
There we go. Okay, perfect. We're going to take a little commercial break. You're listening to Ginni Barnhart on Pocket Change Fortunes Radio. We'll be right back.
Thanks for listening to Building Fortunes Radio. If you sell a product or service, then you should check out PM Marketing's NetworkLeads.com. Just visit www.networkleads.com. For over 18 years, PM Marketing has helped distributors build their home-based businesses through lead generation, website development, automated email delivery systems, and sales training. If you're looking for a way to increase your skills and increase the number of people that see your product or opportunity, NetworkLeads.com can help. To learn more, visit www.networkleads.com. Ask about their lead management system, capture pages, personalized websites, MLM training, humongous blogs, the humongous classified ad network, Building Fortunes Radio, or their webinar schedule. NetworkLeads.com can be your one-stop shop for everything you need. And now, back to our show.
And we are back. If you want to hear this show again, go to buildingfortunesradio.com/Pocket Change or Pocket Change Fortunes, or you can look under Ginni Barnhart. That's Ginni Barnhart, Barnhart, and you'll be able to see the cool things that we're working on to be able to help Ginni do that entrepreneurial thing that she's always wanted to do and has done such a great job with. And she's taken an entrepreneurial spin to that traditional brand, if you will, of real estate. And tell us, we're going to spend the rest of the radio show on that. So talk to us about what you do that's, of course, solid, unique, building a big business, but a little bit different from the traditional way that might fit for those people that are probably more like me, meaning I like to do things, but I like some flexibility. I like structure, but I like flexibility. I want my pluses, and then I want the ability to kind of be a little bit of my own as well, with some help of some people that are, flexible and movers and shakers, and more, like I said, flexible than maybe a traditional brand. Okay, so back to you.
Yes. I would say that as a model, the real estate, they kind of structured it, again, for, the broker has the biggest liability for the company. So if you're an agent that works for them, then they're carrying that. But like I said, traditionally it was 50-50 split. So the way the commissions work is it's based on the price of the home or the sales price of the home. And then usually there is a listing agent and there's a buyer's agent. So a listing agent will be the one that lists the home for sale, and the buyer's agent is who brings the buyer. And the listing commission is usually negotiated between the listing agent and the seller. And the buyer's agent is paid a portion of that commission that was negotiated. So unless that, of course, that listing agent is able to bring the buyer as well, then they can keep the entire commission. So in our market, 6% is the easy number to work with. Usually a 6% commission is typical for a seller. And if the buyer's agent brings the buyer, then they'll split that 3% and 3%. So in traditional, again, that 3% that the buyer's agent gets or the listing agent gets split with their broker. The non-traditional real estate companies that are coming in are giving 100% of that commission to the agent, and they're either charging a monthly fee or a transaction fee. The company I work had elected to do the transaction fee. That way, if people that pay the monthly fee, if they're not getting any sales, then they're paying a monthly fee, regardless if they make a sale or not. At least with the transaction fee, you just pay as you go. And that's been a great model for us. Most of our agents, or all of our agents, work from home. As long as you have a computer and you have internet and you have a smartphone, you basically can do everything that you need wherever you are. You can be on vacation, you can be in China, and still be able to conduct business because you have all the tools you need with you.
Wow.
And
no, keep going.
Oh yeah, I was just gonna say, and how that makes a difference is, say someone is selling a $175,000 home, with the traditional, that 3% would equal $5,250. Where with the traditional, you're splitting that, so the agent is only getting $2,625. So if they sold 10 homes in that year, that's $26,625, which is not bad for just selling 10 homes. That's actually pretty good. Where you take my company, which is just the transaction fee of, we charge $390 per transaction. You take that same $5,250 commission income and you deduct that, then the agent is making $4,860. That's a huge difference between the traditional and the new way of doing real estate. And that means that same 10 houses now equals to $48,600 for that year. So you can see you're doing the same kind of work, putting the same kind of effort, but making double the money.
And realistically speaking, in the traditional sense, how much does the broker really do besides taking on the liability, which you had mentioned, and all the other stuff that they have to do? How much does a broker really do in a regular transaction? Like, I'm going to say things that may sound unknowledgeable, but I don't think the broker does a whole bunch as far as the legwork and the advertising and all that other sort of stuff. They probably give coaching, advice, and education and stuff like that, but not a lot of work, and probably not a whole bunch of sharing the expenses for advertising. So is that a fair enough, without sounding mean, statement?
Yeah, that's totally fair, because anything that a broker does initially for an agent, once they get their niche and they start working in it, they basically can do everything. And they have very little questions for the broker, especially since most of what they need to know can be found in their, they have logins to the board and to their MLS system. So they can get outside help when it comes to that knowledge too. So really the broker isn't doing much for each of the sales, and they're doing smaller and smaller contributions to their agents. Unless their agents are already high producers, they're not really investing too much in the newer agents.
Right. So that brings us back to our mafia story. But no, we'll get into that some other time.
Right.
We'll talk about that some other time. But that's really what it feels like. You know what I mean? Like, wait a minute, you're not doing anything. I'm kicking all the money upstairs. I'm the one, but this was the game that was played. So again, there's pluses and minuses for both. But now you can see why guys with the personality or style like me I would look back and say, wait a minute, I'm the one who's hustling. I'm the one who's reinvesting back in my business. I need that lion's share of the commissions to be able to do the business the way I want to be able to do the business. And, thanks for the help that you gave me originally, but I really want to be able to do something on my own. So
right.
go ahead, please.
I'm sorry. Oh, no. I was going to say, and there's a lot of people that will stay with a broker and only make 50 to 70% of their income because they feel like they need the name. And, and to me, I've said, you know what? That means you have no confidence in your own name, because my clients followed me from every company that I worked with. They didn't care who, was on my business card. They were looking for my name. And I always want to, let people know, hey, if you don't have confidence in yourself, then you might need the name of, Remax or Coldwell Banker to carry you through your career. But if you are trying to build on your own name, that's when you let go of that and start working with companies that allow you to flourish in that, with your own name and not theirs.
So is there, since we're talking about names, would being your own more or less independent person get in the way of doing a bigger deal? Like, is there a limitation to say, okay, well, we can play in this pond, but we're kind of limited by only doing the little ones. We pick up the scraps, the smaller homes or the whatever, but we can't do the multi-bazillion-dollar deals or multi-million-dollar deals. Does that happen with the stuff that you're doing, or are you able to do just about everything that everybody else can do?
Do everything everyone else can do. Again, people, especially, it's even more important for the person that's selling the big gazillion-dollar properties to have trust within that person, because, you look at all the other big companies, they have that one person that, did it wrong, and it brings the whole entire company down. But when you're not relying on that big name and you're only relying on yourself, I think it's a comfort level for the clients you work with.
Excellent. So there's pluses and minuses to everything. We kind of shared with you the pluses of the traditional stuff and the minuses, and then the pluses and the minuses of the stuff that you do. Before we run out of time, how would someone get in touch with you or learn more about what you do? Because there's a lot of people that are looking and searching and would love to be able to work with an entrepreneur like you. And by the way, this is a radio show specific segment on real estate. You do, as an entrepreneur, a whole bunch of other stuff as well. So if you're listening in and you say, I just like this gal's style, she sounds like somebody I'd like to learn from and work with, and I'll do whatever else she is working on, whether it's real estate or whatever, I want people to be able to find you. So how would someone find Ginni Barnhart?
Well, they can go two different ways. One, they can email me directly, and I don't know if there's a place that I can provide that. They can also, I have a website. It's a little clunky, but it's NexusCincy, CINCY.com. They can also go there and contact me through that website as well.
Excellent. So we have a guest page for those people that just need to remember. We have a guest page on Building Fortunes Radio. If you find Ginni, Ginni, or last name is Barnhart, Barnhart. I kind of overemphasize the spelling. But if you go there, you'll be able to find that she's got a contact page on there too, and she'll have her contact information there as well. And if you're that entrepreneur or budding entrepreneur and want to get involved in something like this, then make sure you definitely talk to her. Okay, so we've covered a couple of things on our very first radio show. We talked about Ginni as like a person, so you can hear a little bit about her background, where she got her work ethics from, and then we started to talk a little bit about today more of the specific things, and we'll have other topics for her because we love working with Ginni as well. And she's definitely the entrepreneur. We're putting together a couple of different websites for her, 513-ohio-ads.com. We have another one, homelinks.net, and we've got another one, I think it's PocketChangeFortunesRadio.com or whatever, but you'll find that Ginni's got a lot of really great things going on. So if you just love that energy, you want to work with her. So Ginni, I'll let you wrap it up.
Great. Like I said, anyone that's looking to go into business in any way, again, we're focusing on pocket change and how it can turn into your fortune. And I think that real estate is one of them. So if you're, wanting to kind of explore that, feel free to give me a call.
Excellent. We're going to see everybody next week. Thanks, everybody. Bye for now.
You've been listening to Building Fortunes Radio on buildingfortunesradio.com. Thanks for listening. Be sure to check us out every Friday at 5 p.m. Eastern Time for the designated Building Fortunes Radio segment with Peter Mingils. Be sure to check out the buildingfortunesradio.com website for our featured segments. It's been our privilege to have you listen in. At Building Fortunes Radio, we wish you the success you deserve and are willing to work for. So spread the word, tell a friend, join our newsletter, and go make a difference in your world.